Barkley channeling his inner MJ. Michael Jordan with this dunk to get the touchdown.
I mean, he leaps from the 4-yard line. How many feet is that, Jenna? 4 yards.
12.
Good job, Jenna. Wow, didn't even take her shoes off.
We better end the show right now.
That was, when he jumped, I said, what are you doing?
Yeah, man.
He went and got it.
He's a beast.
This was a wildly entertaining game. Really fun back and forth.
For having no playoff implications, it really was. Same game, which they said, again, meaningless. Tell that to Dak and Cole Beasley. Look at the beautiful catch, and he gets his knee down inbounds.
I've never been a fan of instant replay in the NFL, Bart, but God, did they need it in the league yesterday.
Got it right.
I mean, this was one of half a dozen plays that was called wrong on the field. What a spectacular catch by Cole Beasley.
Yeah. I didn't like it with the pyramid catch. Hurt my Ravens.
Last we have Baker Mayfield, who fakes the jet sweep, tossing the ball to himself, then throws a TD pass to Jarvis Landry.
All right, so I've never seen the jet sweep faked like that.
I mean, that's the first one. Hey, I've never seen that either.
And it worked. The linebackers bit up like it. I mean, that's a really interesting wrinkle that I would imagine you're going to see the Chiefs and the Rams steal in the playoffs.
I know technically they don't have a coach, but you got to tip your hat to Greg Williams and how they were able to keep this thing moving.
All right, moving on. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings facing a win-and-get-in scenario against the Bears on Sunday, and Kirk Cousins could not get it done. Threw for just 132 yards, completing barely 60% of his throws. Vikings lose to the Bears 24-10. They missed the playoffs a year after going to the NFC title game. Here is Kirk Cousins afterwards.
I don't know what the scale of disappointment is, but we're disappointed. You know, would love to be in the playoffs, and you know, I said it all year. I love our team, love our group of guys, and we weren't ready for it to end, and unfortunately, it's over.
Well, I mean, the game we played with today, it's not a playoff performance, so you can't go out there and play like we did today, you know, expect to get in the playoffs, and so I don't think we deserve, the way we played, we don't deserve to get in the playoffs, no.
Okay, so shortly after this game, towards the end of it, I mean, social media was just up and down, blaming number 8, 100%. You know, was the $84 million warranted? Yep. But who is really to blame? Is it really all on Kirk Cousins, this loss?
It's not all on Kirk Cousins. But if we're divvying up blame, and it's a pie chart, his piece is the biggest. The offensive line gets a piece. The Vikings' inability to figure out who they were offensively gets a piece. I would say the defense playing well, but not playing quite up to its talent level, especially in the first 3 quarters of the season, they get a piece. But the biggest piece goes to number 8, because this is who he's been forever. A guy who can put up big numbers, guy who can throw for a bunch of yards, and a guy who, against good teams in the biggest games, stinks.
But isn't that why they got him?
Well, they got him for the first part and hoped that the second part was a Jay Gruden Washington problem rather than a Kirk Cousins problem. This is not 2008 AFC. And what do I mean by that? Where an 11-win team missed the playoffs. Remember that? The Pats, where it's like, damn, it's just tough comfort. A 9-7 Eagles team got your spot. You didn't have to be great. You just had to not be horrible. You had a home game in the final game of the year. I know Chicago was playing their starters, Bart, but the motivation was different. It's a playoff game for Minnesota. Chicago doesn't have to win it. And you came out flat, and Kirk had 80 yards passing going late into the 4th quarter. It was a disaster for the Vikings.
Listen, as a Jets fan, thank you. Thank you, because the pressure is all on Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings to perform, right? Because you give somebody guaranteed money, a team that was, you know, 1 game from the Super Bowl, and you expect, and you bring a guy in, a veteran quarterback in the middle of his career to get you over the hump for moments just like this. Not only did he fall flat, he fell flat on his face. And you can see how animated Thielen was, and he's talking about, hey, dude, I don't have enough time. Well, this is why they brought you in there, and they fired D. Filippo because he wouldn't run the football. Guess how many times they ran the football yesterday?
Tell me.
15 times. So, you know, they put it on Kirk Cousins. They put it all on his shoulders, and he couldn't deliver. But this isn't the first time he couldn't deliver, because I remember when he was in Washington and they had a playing game at home, and he fell flat on his face as well. What happens is you think about Case Keenum and why Case Keenum is better for this team is because you need somebody that's mobile within the pocket to buy time, because you understand that his limitations with this offensive line. Those issues weren't addressed, but they were masked last year because Case Keenum was able to buy time in the pocket. What is Kirk Cousins? He's a pocket quarterback, a glorified game manager, and you gave him a guaranteed contract. You deserve what you got, Minnesota. Thank you so much, Kirk, for turning down the money.
Right, when Bart says as a Jets fan, because the Jets offered him $90 million instead of $86 million to come there, which would have totally changed their progression. They wouldn't have had Darnold. They'd have been in win-now mode. Now the Jets get to go on a more conventional progression, and the Vikings are left asking what's next.
But they didn't just come out flat, and it wasn't just Kirk Cousins. The whole team just played uninspired ball on a day where, forget anything else that happened this season, they had to come out and play, or their whole season was over. How do you explain it? Is that on Kirk leading the team? Is that on the head coach?
If you want to sum it up, right, a play that sums it up, Diggs coming across, 3rd and 5, needing to convert to keep the game alive, and he got tattooed. You can say whatever you want. Chicago is a better version of what Minnesota thought that they were. And they got hit in the mouth, and they didn't like it. You know, it's kind of when you see a mirror image of yourself, but they're a little tougher than you, and your whole identity was you're tougher and you're badder than somebody, and you've realized that you're not the baddest dude on the block. And then you got some decisions to make. And you saw guys making decisions, you know, business decisions, that they weren't really about that smoke. They were talking loud, but they understood that they were going against an opponent that was going to hit you in the mouth, that was going to let you catch the football, and they was going to make you pay the tax.
That was, I mean, when you said that 3rd and 5, that was one of 11 third downs the Vikings had in this game. They converted a single one of them. Late in the game, I think they were 0 for 8 on 3rd down before the game totally got away from them. But here's why this is potentially truly disastrous for the Minnesota Vikings. This was their window. Like, I understood them going and getting Kirk Cousins. I supported them doing it because I am a guy that I look at the contracts. I look at who's on a rookie deal, who's not, who do you have to pay. Last year was a year ahead of schedule for them as far as really being a Super Bowl contender. But they know Anthony Barr is coming up. They know Thielen's not going to play on that nonsense contract he has forever. They know Diggs is just getting more and more expensive. They know Trey Waynes is going to be gone probably next year. They know all these things. So what they did was they said, we were this close to the Super Bowl last year. We are going to, even if we don't go 13-3, we want to make sure our biggest question mark, which was quarterback on that team last year, other than offensive line, is addressed. So they went out and got the best guy on the market because they thought we'll be back in the tournament this year, we'll be back in the tournament next year, and then we're going to, if Kirk's great, we'll be able to overcome the defensive losses. If he's not, we'll deal with it then. To not make the playoffs this year, in 13-3, you don't have to go to 14-2. You can go to 10-6, but to go to 8 wins from 13-3 with the schedule that they had, they suffer devastating injuries. They had Nick Easton loss in the preseason. They had a tragic death of their offensive line coach. I understand that, but you've got to be able to overcome it. And even though they were mediocre all year, Jenna, they had a win in your situation, and you alluded to it. 2015. Kirk's first year as a starter. They're in the playoffs. They're at home, up 11-0 on Green Bay. Get beat 35-18. The next year, win in your end game, at home against the Giants. And they scored 10 points, and Kirk has 1 touchdown, 2 picks. This year, they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games against teams that made the playoffs. They went 1-6. Like, that's their season. That's how you turn into this team.
And one of those teams was the Miami Dolphins, who ended up with a losing record.
Oh, those are teams, right. So they were 1-6 against teams that made the playoffs against teams that went into the game with a winning record. They're 1-8-1, and Cousins is in his last 10.
It's been an effort to very gently pat myself on the back. I did come out last year and say, why fix what ain't broken? I mean, I understand that they had to, but this is what happened.
Okay, here's the thing. I would just caution you on patting yourself on the back there.
If I could reach it, I'd go, Oh, gun show.
What's up? Go ahead. Here we go.
I'm very excited to watch Case Keenum in the playoffs this week. Let me see. Oh, Denver won 6 games.
I know.
He got his coach fired.
Yeah, Denver, I mean, his coach is gone. I mean,
All right, fine. I had like 8 seconds of glory, and then it was quickly demolished. Time now for Put a Grade on It, sponsored by CarMax. Okay, so the Bears finished the season 12-4, good for the 3 seed in the NFC. Bart, put a grade on the Chicago Bears season.
A+. And it's about time that people start